You know, Team Expert, you actually made a pretty big impact in the European scene throughout Phase 1 in the first season and I think for the second season so far as well. Now, what would you say makes you unique or what makes you strong as a team compared to the other teams? Is there something special about you that you think none of the other teams have? Like, what is characteristic for your playstyle?
Yes, I think everyone knows about our team as a team that likes to try new strategy and bring out the unconventional picks. So I think this is our trademark that we innovate the strategies a lot. And in the first phase of HGC, we finished on the fourth place. And most of the offline tournaments are reserved for top 3. So we missed out on a lot of tournaments, but in this phase, we have a chance to get top 3 and go to the Western Clash. We are on the way to do it. If we win our next 2 matches, we are guaranteed to go to the Western Clash, and I think it would be great for us if we could do it.
Adrd, you said that your special playstyle, your out-of-the-box thinking is really what sets you apart from the other teams. Can you give us an example? Like, you are basically the brain of the team, if you will. I'm just going to say that. How much time do you put into theory crafting and thinking of drafts, preparing for the enemy teams right now?
Like, we used to be playing picks that no one else picked, like Butcher or Kerrigan, for example, in the first phase. But, for example, this phase, we are not playing that many picks that are not played, and I think it's because other teams realize that what we're playing is very often good, so they're trying out the things that we play, and the things that we try in scrims suddenly become meta, and we see even teams like Fnatic copying our strategies. Like, oftentimes I just come up with ideas like very randomly, like when I'm not even playing, like doing something else, and I just come up with something. Or even I could play Hero League and see that something is working exceptionally good, and I will go like in scrims, yeah, let's try this and see how it goes.
So would you say that you are the secret trendsetters of the European meta that we sometimes see in HGC?
I guess you can say that.
Okay.
Like some strategies, like we don't even play in tournaments, but then suddenly you see like Fnatic or Team Liquid pull out something strange, and there's a high chance that they could see us playing that first.
Nice. Okay, cool. So not only you guys being the trendsetters in Europe and actually the other teams sometimes being the copycats of your styles, talk to us about Athero Angel, who is basically the newest addition to the team. And Athero is basically a veteran in the European scene. He's played for Dignitas and other teams before. Do you think he adds a lot to the team? And if so, what do you think is the most important thing that he brings to the team as the freshest member?
Okay, so when I joined the team, we had all the players that played in it were very unexperienced. So we basically had to learn almost everything from the beginning because we didn't have players that were in big teams.
Yeah.
So I think it sometimes hurt us. And with Atero, we have someone that played for a really long time, just like me. And we actually played together in Dignitas. And Atero has been around in the scene in in many teams. So I think it's useful to have someone else that is as experienced and can help me like guide the team better.
Is he also part of the shot calling too? Because we know that in Heroes or many MOBAs, I would say there's always someone who normally takes over the drafts, and there's someone who normally goes for in-game shot calling, like who to focus, where to go, which objective to go for. Is Athero taking part in that as well?
I mean, I wouldn't say that he's that big part of the shot calling.
Okay.
Like, I think in our team, this is like Benny is the main shot caller, but everyone can give input. So it's up to the players how much can they do. So like when it's needed, he does his role, and that's enough.
So you would say that you have a very democratic way of doing it. Like everyone can just say their input during the game. There's not like one person responsible for absolutely every call, right?
Yeah, I guess you can say so. I
Okay.
don't think it's even possible to do everything efficiently by yourself in Heroes of the Storm,
Yeah.
because the game is very fast and very complicated. So even if you call everything by yourself, you need a lot of input. Like if someone is solo laning, he needs to tell you how the solo lane is going and if he needs any help and so on. So he needs to make that decision by himself to decide if he needs help or if it will be more useful if we stay the same way.
Okay, so on the weekend, I think you only have one match to play this time around. So can you talk to the viewers, or can you talk us through the upcoming match, who your opponents are going to be, and how you prepare for it, and what your goals are for the rest of the season, obviously?
So the next team that we're playing is Team Good Guys,
Yep.
and they're the new team in HGC that got out from the Open League. So far, they've been not doing that well in terms of score, but they played versus very good teams, so it's pretty hard to judge how they're playing. But so far, we could see that they play very similarly on every single map. They have one style, I would say, that they're playing.
Yeah.
And if they play the same versus Trig, then you can assume that they play the same also versus us. So that's something that we can use to our advantage.
Would you say that their playstyle, as you described it, being very one-sided and being very predictable, would you say that you guys are well prepared for it and that you actually like to play against that kind of stuff?
I mean, it gives us a lot of more options to prepare if we know what they're going to play. But it depends if that's the playstyle that we're familiar with, and what TGG plays is something that we are not very familiar because we didn't play them that much, and basically no one else plays anything similar.
Yeah.
So they even won one map versus Fnatic.
True.
Because I assumed that Fnatic was not prepared, but they won every single game after that. So I think they must have been surprised by how well TGG played, or how well they played when they got what they wanted. So I think it's important, even versus them, to not let them play their playstyle.
Okay, so ADRD, we're all going to expect that you guys make it to the Western Clash. At least I do, because I'm a big fan of your overall performance as a whole. So if you make it to the Western Clash, what do you think would your chances be? Because there's going to be a lot of good teams. Fnatic, for example, which many still consider to be the best team in the world by far, especially after the performance at the midseason brawl. If you made it to the to the Western Clash, excuse me, what do you think would your chances be?
I mean, what are our chances to win everything, or what do I think that our result would be?
Do you think you could win the whole thing?
I think that's possible. Like, it's definitely not something that is something that we can't imagine we could do, because winning versus Fnatic is something that we have done, at least winning
games it in the past.
Them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely within the reach, but if we go, we would at least aim to not lose versus any teams from any other regions than Europe. And that would be good enough result for us, as it's our first LAN together. And we would take that more of the preparation for BlizzCon.
Yeah, BlizzCon, of course, being the big ultimate goal as the biggest tournament of the year. And if my memory doesn't cheat on me, I think there's going to be more teams per region for the major regions at least. So the chances are even better to make it to LA at some point. Now, last question for you, ADRD. Is there anything that you would like to see in Heroes of the Storm, or maybe competitive Heroes of the Storm, coming in anytime soon? Like, would you like to see a change to the map pool? Would you like to see Hanamura being implemented, for example? Is there anything, if you had the power at Blizzard to do something just like that, what would it be?
So like you mentioned about new maps, I think there should be new maps in HGC, so there needs to be some way to introduce maps slower to the competitive scene. Because, for example, I think teams don't want to play Hanamura, mainly because they didn't play it ever.
Would you
in
play
scrims.
it? Would you play it?
No, we didn't play it.
Okay.
But I think like we voted to have for Hanamura to be in, and like it's impossible to know how the game would play in competitive environment because so far no one played it, and in Hero League is completely different. So I think it would be really interesting to see how the meta would evolve on the new maps, like even on mines that get reworked.
Yeah.
And I think it would even influence Hero League in a good way, because people would know how to play those maps. Because so far, I think people are very confused what to do. For example, in Hanamura, I think you should like focus more on camps, on doing
Yeah.
them. But instead, we see people bribing them from time to time and focusing on lanes, which is something that would change if it was played in competitive for like a few weeks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would love to see some of the maps that are not currently in the competitive map pool. Well, thank you very much for your time, Adrd. I really enjoyed the interview, and I hope that your guys are gonna bring a lot more glory and honor to Team Expert. I have big faith in you. Anyway, good luck on the future play day as well, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.